Hello folks, the bubbly boba boy is out and here is what you need to know about Ayato Kamisato. He is a motivated sword user that can apply a lot of hydro in a large AoE and dish out plenty of punishment. Let's dive right into his abilities. Ayato will mostly be focused on normal attack. His elemental skill infuses his sword with hydro and lets him slash a pretty big AoE, similar to Raiden Shogun's during her burst window. While Ayato's E is active, he will no longer be able to do charge or plunging attacks. Instead, he will be a normal attacking machine for 6 seconds. And since he cannot do charge attacks, you can hold down the left click to keep auto attacking without mashing it, which is pretty nice. This damage is also boosted by stacks of Namisen, which scales with his max HP, but don't worry too much on building for max health, just focus on the damage stuff. His elemental burst is similar to Ganyu. It does AoE hydro damage to enemies within the circle, and boosts normal attack damage for 18 seconds. This will last just long enough for Ayato to use his elemental skill twice, getting the full benefits from the damage buff. An easy combo route is to set up your party's buff and skills, such as Bennett's Q or Official's Oz, then use Ayato's burst. Then immediately use his E and start slashing away. After the 6-second E buff is gone, you can swap to your supports and have them use their skills before switching back to Ayato for another round of slashes. His E lasts for 6 seconds and you have a 12-second cooldown, so try to finish your support's ability in that 6-second downtime, otherwise you'll lose a couple seconds of Ayato's buff normal attacks at the end of his burst. With these two abilities, you can play Ayato as a main DPS or a burst support. His kit is more tailored to let him have the spotlight on the field though, but you can also use his burst for a very long hydro application and off-field damage. One obvious substitute in mind is for Mona in freeze teams. Mona does provide more damage thanks to the Omen debuff, but her hydro application is pretty short, so you won't keep most enemies frozen for that long. With Ayato, you get 18 seconds of hydro to keep enemies frozen. His burst has a cooldown of 20 seconds, so with enough energy recharge, you will barely have any downtime for applying hydro on enemies. His Ascension passive also helps both his playstyles. His A2 gives him free stacks of Namisen when Ayato uses his E, so it's just more extra damage. Don't worry too much about the details, just know that it's extra bonus damage for each of the flashy normal attacks. His A4 gives free energy while not on the field until it hits 40, which is great for his support style. For priority, level his elemental skill first if he is your main DPS. If he is your burst support, then just focus on his Q. The normal attacks won't be used that much in either build. Technically, if you want Ayato just for the hydro application and not the damage or normal attack buff, you don't really need to level his abilities at all. For his Constellations, it all focuses on extra damage, most of which are tied to his elemental skill. If you are using Ayato for pure support, then save some Primogems and don't worry about Constellations at all. For main DPS Ayato, here's what the Constellations do. His C1 increases his E slash against low health enemies. It's a nice bonus, but it only really affects elites and bosses since other enemies will die really fast anyway. His C2 will add extra damage to his E slashes again, but without the enemy HP criteria. On average, at talent level 8 and 15k HP, this will increase the Namisen bonus damage from 575 to 1080, which is about twice the amount of the bonus damage during the 6-second buff. Remember though, this is not double the damage of his attacks, it's just double the bonus flat damage you get. C3 increases his E by 3 levels, which is obviously more damage. C4 lets his burst increase the normal attack speed of everyone, including himself. The burst already buffs the normal attack damage, so this just boosts it even more. C5 increases his burst by 3 levels. It's nice, but it's one of his weaker constellations in terms of personal damage. His C6 is also pretty nice, but not as overpowered as other 5 stars. It makes his first attack after using his E very strong. Here is the theoretical DPS increase from the Kaching main Discord. These are just approximates, but it gives you a nice estimate of how much each constellation helps. For his weapons, the best one is obviously the new Haran Geppaku Futsu sword. The next best weapon is the Mist Splitter. You can get 3 stacks just for doing his normal rotation, but you will lose some of them for the second half of his burst window. Regardless, Ayato can borrow Ayaka's best in slot with no issues. Rounding off the top 3 is the Primordial Jade Cutter. This is a very good sword that fits any DPS character. All 3 weapons mentioned do similar damage, so you don't need to pull for the fancy new sword if you already have the Mist Splitter or Jade Cutter. Summon Shaper will be better if you have a shield, but that depends on your team. The Black Sword is the best 4-star weapon, but it does require the Battle Pass. Refinement 1 is good enough, any extra refinement is not needed. A little below that is the next tier of weapons. This includes the free-to-play Kageuchi, Black Cliff, Lion's Roar, and the Skyward Blade. Lion's Roar will be better for electrocharged teams since you always have the bonus damage. If you are running other teams, then don't use this weapon. The Favonius and Sacrificial Sword are only used on a support Ayato since it barely adds any damage, but it does help get his burst back faster. And don't use the Aquilia Favonia, Ayato barely does physical damage and the weapon will be wasted here. For the artifacts, you have a couple choices. For his DPS build, go for 4-piece Echoes or 4-piece Heart of Death. Since the Echo set is new, it will take quite a while to farm 4 good pieces from scratch, especially with my luck. Another DPS set that is slightly behind is the 4-piece Gladiator. If you have been playing Genshin for a while, then most players will have a decent set naturally. You can also convert other artifacts into Gladiator at the crafting station. If you don't have any of the 4-piece sets available with good substats, then use 2-piece Heart of Death and 2-piece attack percent. This is a universal combo that gives a decent amount of damage. It also lets you pick better substats, which will give you more damage in the end than forcing a 4-piece with very bad substats. If you are running a freeze team, then 4-piece Blizzard Strayer also comes in play. You can farm for this and Heart of Death at the same time. If you are going for Ayato support, then the usual 4-piece Noblesse works to provide extra damage buffs. You can also go for 2-piece or 4-piece Emblem for the extra energy recharge. As for substats, you have the usual suspects. In the DPS build, go for attack percent or energy recharge Sands, Hydro Damage Goblet, and Crit Helmet. The attack percent will do more damage, but the ER does help with his burst uptime. You will want about a 160% ER if he's your main DPS. For substats, crit rate and crit damage are first, followed by attack, then HP and ER. The 160% ER is a rough estimate depending on your team and how much energy you get. Since he applies Hydro so fast, Ayato will be the aura character, so Elemental Mastery won't do much here. For support Ayato, go for Energy Recharge Sands. The other two can be Hydro and Crit for extra damage to help out the team. For support substats, you want Energy Recharge first. The higher the better, since the 80 energy cost is kinda hard to reach, especially if you are using a freeze team, since they do not generate that much energy particles. After ER, go for your usual damage stats like crit and attack. They won't be that important this time since the support damage will be fairly low, just try to max that energy recharge. Now on to team comps. Ayato can fit a variety of teams. Due to his high amounts of Hydro application, you can build teams around Electrocharge, Freeze, or Vaporize. You can also focus on amping Ayato's normal attacks with a Yunjin team as well. My favorite and easiest team to use is the Electrocharge team with Ayato, Fischl, Kazuha, and Bennett. Bennett and Kazuha are universal buffers that are great for any team. So the stars here are Ayato and Fischl. At C6, Fischl's Oz does a high amount of damage as long as you keep attacking. And not only does Ayato attack, he puts Hydro on everyone so Oz will continue to zap multiple enemies. This team is good on single target and even better against groups. Set up by sending out Oz, then swirl with Kazuha to increase electro damage, then use Bennett's burst for the buff before finally switching to Ayato's combo. After your E wears off, you can use Kazuha to apply another swirl, then refresh Oz and go back to Ayato for his second elemental skill within the same burst window. Other variations of Electrocharge team includes adding A and Sara, or using both Fischl and Beidou. The last team member is a Flex, which can be a healer or a Nemo to boost damage. Very similar ideas, just set up off-field Electro procs while Ayato slashes on-field. Then we have the popular freeze teams. With Ayato, we can finally substitute Mona. You will do a little less damage since there won't be an Omen debuff, but enemies will stay frozen for a lot longer. This is technically an increase in damage depending on who you are fighting. You will still need Ganyu or Ayaka in a freeze team to help keep the cryo applications during Ayato's burst though. but we can finally give our bimbo astrologists some needed rest. In Overload comps, Ayato will not be the one causing Vaporize. Instead, the support will be doing the big hits, and the best off-field pyro for this is Xiangling. Even though Xiangling is a 4-star, she is still one of the best off-field pyro damage dealers. You can add in Beidou for a variance on the fireworks team, or add an extra Hydro or Pyro character for more support and energy. Another idea is a team that is focused on Ayato's raw damage. Add in Yunjin for a boost in normal attacks, and maybe Xingqiu to decrease enemy Hydro resistance and add his own summon swords to the mix. Then watch Ayato's Judgment Cuts wreak havoc on all enemies in sight. I like to call this team I'm Motivated for obvious reasons. Sneak in an Anemo character to buff your Hydro damage even more, and you can see Ayato shine. So yeah, lots of different teams for Ayato, all of which are viable. Just pick the ones you enjoy playing or already have beefed up on your account. This guide is getting long, so let's wrap this up. Ayato is a very versatile character with a wide variety of team comps. He shines brightest as a main DPS, but can fit the role of a support who applies a ton of Hydro for any freeze team. Both styles are fine, just play the one you enjoy. If you are debating on pulling for Ayato and somehow made it this far into the video, then my recommendation is a strong yes. He can fit into any account and brings an easy playstyle that dishes a lot of damage. It might be hard to farm a 4-piece set for him at first, but you can make do with 2-piece hybrid sets until the day you get lucky farming artifacts. So that's pretty much my closing statement. Thanks for watching, smash that like and subscribe button, and let me know how you feel about Ayato in the comments below, and as always, have fun out there, traveler.